Chapter 4. Human souls are unconsciously aspiring, yearning, and crying for higher and sublimer spiritual knowledge which can save them from the cruel clutches of Maya, i.e., quagmire of materialism. This spiritual knowledge or science of the soul can be imparted by the awakened, illuminated, blessed souls through intuition only. Intellectual degrees are of no avail to grasp or realize this spiritual science. Our modern science, despite wonderful achievements, is still groping in the dark about the real purpose or meaning of life. Therefore, it is unable to understand, realize, grasp, comprehend, discern, analyze, search into the secrets of the divine realm. Man is made in the image of God, and all divine attributes are inherent in the human consciousness. In fact, every particle of the cosmos possesses this divine heritage of light, knowledge, power, kindness, forgiveness, compassion, love, joy, bliss, grace, in full and profound measure. However, the continuous flow of these divine virtues into our consciousness is contingent to and limited by the condition of our individual belief and faith in divinity. Somehow, we have come under the baneful influence of Maya, Satan, and are unaware of our innate divine heritage. In other words, our wrong thinking and superfluous belief or lack of faith in divinity is the only obstruction which limits the flow of divine qualities into our consciousness. This limitation of inflow of divine qualities into our consciousness is in proportion to the quality and intensity of our belief and faith in divine providence of love and grace. And in that proportion, we partake and enjoy divine joy and bliss inherent in our souls. Since the onus of all experiences on the physical, mental, and intellectual planes lies in our own thoughts, beliefs, conceptions, and faith, it is at these planes that we need discrimination or choice of thoughts and beliefs so as to enable us to change or transform our faith and conception into subtle, sublimer planes of spiritual consciousness. The moment the obstruction of forgetfulness or faithlessness is removed and substituted by belief and faith in the benevolence of divine providence, the inflow of God's grace is spontaneously renewed into our spiritual consciousness, and we are blessed with all the divine virtues inherent in our soul. It should be remembered that this Maya exists, works, and gains strength only in the elusive darkness of our baser, degenerated consciousness. This darkness has no existence of its own. Its existence depends on the absence of light. Darkness is the only cause of all illusions. This elusive darkness in our mind and consciousness is called Maya. Maya means elusive, materialistic consciousness of our mind as opposed to the spiritual consciousness of our soul. As darkness and light cannot coexist, so materialistic consciousness and spiritual consciousness cannot coexist in the soul at the same time. In other words, faith in the divine grace of compassion, joy, bliss, and love in our consciousness is the divine light. In the absence of this light of faith, darkness of elusive Maya prevails. This elusive darkness of Maya is the root cause of all our wrong, depraved thinking, perceptions, and actions which bring in their trail all the unhappiness, worries, and miseries of the world. As darkness of the soul is symbolic of elusive Maya, so is light and grace symbolic of divinity. The dry, dreary, desolate, sandy desert on the earth is symbolic of our depraved, faithless consciousness. Similarly, the fountain of water and greenery of Oasis amidst the desert is symbolic of divine providence of grace on the sublimer plane of the human consciousness. God, in his gracious mercy for his children, created these life-giving oases amidst the burning desert of sand dunes. Similarly, God has provided celestial oases in every soul so that his prodigal children, when lost in the maze of desolate and burning desert of Maya, can take refuge in it and enjoy the compassion, bliss, and love of the Divine Father inherent in their own souls. The underlying factor for the degeneration of human consciousness is that man has little or no faith in divinity. Rather, he depends on and takes refuge in his own limited intelligence and ego. Thus, he forgets that there is spiritual oasis within his own soul where he can get immediate relief, solace, rest, peace, and refuge from the scorching desert of Maya. He runs about aimlessly, in frenzy, to get some relief from the fire of his self-created problems, worries, miseries, and then foolishly takes refuge in drinks, drugs, sensuality, entertainments, controversies, which add fuel to his worries and miseries and make his condition worse than before. Thus, a never-ending vicious circle is created, and the man falls from frying pan to the fire, changing from one cauldron to another boiling cauldron, only to make his life hellish. Even if a man is told about the spiritual oasis within his own soul, he is unable to find or take refuge in it without the inspired guidance of a spiritual master. The spiritual oasis exists in the sublime plane of consciousness, which cannot be reached or realized by human intelligence alone. Such spiritual oasis can only be realized and enjoyed by upliftment of consciousness from the materialistic plane of Maya to the spiritual plane of divinity. This is possible only through the development of spiritual intuition, with the help and guidance of awakened, enlightened, and blessed souls who have already found this oasis and are living in and enjoying it with their souls.